TorahTalk with Lew White and Mark Davidson.
Hey, brother, how you going?
Fine. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Wow.
Good morning, sister.
Yes, come on over here.
I haven't seen you in a long time. How are y'all doing?
Oh, very good, thank you. How are you?
Fine.
Doing great. Yeah.
We're fine.
Great. There's a big shadow next to your head. What's causing that?
It's probably a demon.
Whose head?
Whose head?
Can you see, look behind you? See there's a big shadow on the screen?
Right here? It's
No.
probably nice.
Oh, you can't see that?
No. Oh, that's better. Great to see you guys.
Great seeing you too.
Yeah, good seeing you.
You've been snowed in?
Not really that bad. We've had about the average amount of snowfall, like 3 or 4 inches will come down at the most. And, we've seen in years past a lot. But the main thing this year has been a record-breaking and record-matching temperature, the low. It went 4 degrees below our zero, which is way down for you, below freezing.
Wow.
It's not, we see 32 degrees is our freezing for Fahrenheit, but we went down below our zero, which is way down,
Yeah.
It's really serious. Pipes were bursting, water pipes on houses and everything.
Wow.
Not ours. I put some stuff out.
Yeah, we were protected.
Yeah, you were protected.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't even imagine that kind of cold here.
Oh no. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
We have to drive hours and hours and hours to snowfields if we want to see snow.
Yeah.
How's Amy and the children?
They're going great. Yeah. We're all getting into new routines and trying to get everything happening in the house and the salon and just trying to overcome and do everything the right way.
Right.
It must be wonderful having a whole new. I mean, you've got a whole new life, new house, new job.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's absolutely amazing.
I'm going to let y'all talk. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. Lovely to see you.
She's wonderful. She gets up with me early in the morning like this. I'm probably looking pretty sleepy, but if I do funny things, please forgive me.
Wonderful. So how you been, brother?
I've been fine. I've been working very hard. I'm still tweaking the BYNV, and I've sent you a recent update. Have you gotten that yet?
Yes. Thank you for that.
And I've got another one. I mean, just a little, like 1 or 2 words, and I just changed. But it'll be every time you get one, just throw the old ones away and keep the latest. Maybe keep it back up. And,
fantastic. Well, I'd like to welcome all your brothers and sisters. Welcome to our new season of Torah Talk 2014, what we call 2014. It's in for another exciting season of truth and madness.
Yeah. We'll have some fun, hopefully, because we want to make it fun for everybody too. Yeah.
How you been enjoying the issues, brother?
Oh, they've been marvelous, really. Yeah. Everybody's sitting around going, well, let me just off the cuff, just give my impressions, and with Yahusha in each person revealing things, it's really great. And that last one was really wonderful too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really powerful, the last one.
Yeah, they were stumbling along at first a little bit, but that's normal, Yeah. And then they're picking up, moving.
Yeah. Chris asked me today how I felt about all the different systems. I said, I hate them. I have to get into line.
What do you mean, the new systems?
There was one for trying to have a system to try and, what was the first one? The first one was to get the kids raising the children properly, how to discipline the children, and and then the next one was evil spirits, how to keep evil spirits out of your home and out of your head, and then there was one on trading, where to trade until he comes, and then the last one was about behaviour. So just getting everything simple and into simple systems so that people can sort of okay, I can do that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Just steps to, getting ahead and overcoming. And you just gone out of focus.
What? Oh, man. Here.
That might work. There we go. We're back in focus. Back in focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is this word? I just took it out of the box of mysteries. Kabbala. Kabbala. Kabbala.
Kabbala. Yeah.
It gives a lot of, it evokes mystery itself. But, yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to discuss today, if that's all right. Do you have questions or notes or anything from that?
I was just going to let you do your thing. Because you're...
Oh, I wanted to talk to you. Yeah. The first thing I wanted to do was read the 10 Commandments, if that's all right.
Cool.
Just, because I'm gonna start with the Deuteronomy 5.
Yeah.
And there's, what they call Exodus 20. They have that in there too. But the Deuteronomy 5 is right here. The first commandment is, I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. I'm reading from the BYNV.
Of course.
And I've put that in bold. It's bold text. Now, number 2, you do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of which is in the Shamayim above, or which is in the Eretz beneath, or which is in the Mayim under the Eretz. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands to those who love me and guard my commands. Now notice he didn't want you to make any likeness which is in the Shamayim above. What is that? The constellations.
Mm.
Yeah, because that's Babylonian. Number 3, you do not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to ruin, for Yahuwah does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to ruin. Number 4, guard the Shabbat Yom to set it apart, as Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you. 6 Yomim you labor, and shall do all your work, but the 7th Yom is a Shabbat of Yahuwah your Elohim. And do not do any work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your Elohim brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you to observe the Shabbat Yom. Respect your father and your mother, as Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you, so that your Yomim are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soil which Yahuwah your Elohim has given you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, or break wedlock. You do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's Isha, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. Now, that's the core of it. And he did not, and then it goes on and says that, and he added no more. Okay? Now that means that if we have anything to add, that we're outside the boundaries. See, that's what I'm talking about. And we're in a field called tradition. See, tradition is outside of his field. He never mentioned anything about tradition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, have you ever watched the movie Fiddler on the Roof? Is there a song somewhere that goes, tradition?
Tradition.
Tradition. Well, I've mentioned this before, but only lightly. There was when I first started this study of the scriptures, I wanted to know what the source of the Hebrew roots were, and I started being interested in the ideas that were coming from rabbinic Judaism, and so I bought these 2 books. One was called The Jewish Book of Why, You know, why do we do this if it says this? Why do we do that if it says that? And there were two of them. There was a part 1 and part 2. And the rabbi, as he called himself, kept going on about the fact that it says this in Scripture, and yet we don't do that. We do something different because of tradition, you know. And I'm thinking, what's going on there? You know, it's kind of reminded me of Roman Catholicism and Christianity, syncretism, adapting things that were in your environment, which is exactly what Yahuwah told us to not do.
Mm.
You know, don't learn the ways of the heathen. Don't do that. You know, so
Yes.
that's what this is all about too, the article. Oh, by the way, I've got a downloadable thing. You can print it out on one sheet of paper if you do a double-sided thing. You know, it's the article is Cabala. And, you know, I've got basically, if you fold it in half, you've got a little 4-page pamphlet, and you can do this from anywhere on the planet, even on the space station. I hear that word popping up in various places suddenly, you know.
Yeah, Madonna made it famous, didn't she?
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing ever faster and faster among Natsarim. You know, I had a call.
Really?
Yeah, several weeks ago, from a dear sister who attended many, many seminars in person that we were conducting at the Torah Institute for years. And she called me on the phone and she said that she is made aware of something that is very important. We don't have enough information. And she said that I have to read the Zohar and practice Kabbalah in order, you know, for these things for us to be delivered, you know, which was really scary and frightening at first for me. And I was thinking I didn't do my job. I wasn't able to make her aware of the things that, you know, that were coming down the line. And so it was a scary thing to see somebody that was just being affected by winds of doctrine, you know. But we've seen this all the time. In fact, I even mentioned, I wonder what the next one's going to be, you know, for that.
Yeah.
There was
like addicted to knowledge. They've got to find like as though you could actually get to the end of the Torah. It's like they say, "Oh, we've come to the end of that. We need something more to fill ourselves with." Like you'll ever get to the end of it, and like you know, we've only hardly even started it, and like they need more knowledge, more knowledge. Why don't you take the knowledge you've got and try being kind and loving and practicing it instead of hiding yourself away and trying to get more knowledge? What for?
Yeah. A sister from Hawaii sent me this. And of course, we know that Yahusha has shown us the greatest love anyone could show us. The fact is that that's the goal, you know, and people get uppity about that and they say, oh, yeah, you keep talking about love. Well, that's what Yahuwah keeps talking about. You know, that's the thing about that. But, anyway, one of the things that popped in my head was when you were talking, you talked about filling us. Well, you know, Kabbalah tries to, that's the objective of Kabbalah is to find fulfillment. It apparently isn't this. It's not the objective. But, you know, Scripture says it is. One of the things that popped in my head just before you called was Romans 8, verse 33 through 35. Just a few verses. Who shall bring a charge, any charge, against Elohim's chosen ones? It is Elohim that is declaring right. Who is declaring right? Who is he who is condemning? Is it Messiah? It is Messiah who died, or Mashiach who died, and furthermore is also raised up, who is also at the right hand of Elohim, who also makes intercession for us. And then the next verse, Romans 8:35. Who shall separate us from the love of the Mashiach? Shall pressure, or distress, or persecution, or scarcity of food, or nakedness, or danger, or sword? As it has been written, I'll keep going. As it has been written, for your sake we are killed all day long, and we are reckoned as sheep of slaughter. But in this we are more than overcomers through him who loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor powers, neither the present, nor the future, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Mashiach Yehusha, our Master. Well, that's not Kabbalah. You know, it doesn't talk about Kabbalah. But it does mention some of the things that Kabbalah wants to use. Kabbalah is seeking to make a yoking, or a connection, a union with forces. And this text that we just read said he's persuaded that neither death nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor powers are able to separate us from this love. Now, love is the fulfillment. That's what Kabbalah wants to seek, and that's what the Zodiac people want to seek. They're seeking love, but they're looking in the wrong places for it. They don't even, that's not even their goal, though. But it is. But they don't know it because their teachers are misguiding them. They're saying, well, look at what the Talmud says. Well, what's the Talmud got to do with this? You know. But I wanted to start out just with this other thing here. This verse, it's...
looking for love in all the wrong places. Who used to sing that song?
I don't know. That sounded like a country song. I didn't follow that genre very much. But Yirmiyahu chapter 16, which is something that, when we're talking about traditions, I wanted to mention this one too. They call Jeremiah the bullfrog. It's
Jeremiah the bullfrog. Yeah.
3 Dog Night. It's verse 19. Yirmiyahu, chapter 16, verse 19. O Yahuwah, my strength and my stronghold and my refuge, in the day of distress, the Gentiles shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers have inherited only falsehood, futility, and there is no value in them. See? And that's talking about tradition. But one of the details is a lot of people think that they're talking about Gentiles being outsiders. In this particular verse, we're not really talking necessarily about outsiders from the covenant, but people who are in the covenant that are also considered to be Gentiles, because that word Gentiles means, is actually a word goyim. And the house of Israel and the house of Yehuda are also one of the nations. You know, they are. They're included, and a lot of people miss that, but coming from the ends of the earth, being scattered. Because, see, we are scattered, and this is another place. The prophet Yashayahu, who is one of the people I want to meet after Yehusha when I go into the kingdom. But in chapter 42, starting at verse 20, I think it is. Yeah. They call him Isaiah. Yashayahu, 42, starting at verse 20. This is kind of reminding me of Arthur Conan Doyle. Arthur Conan Doyle, remember him? One of his famous sayings is, you see, but you do not observe. Well, where did he get that? Well, he got it from Yeshayahu 42:20. You see much, but do not observe. Ears are open, but do not hear. It has delighted Yahuwah for the sake of his righteousness to make the Torah great and esteemed. But this is a people robbed and plundered. All of them are snared in holes, and they are hidden in prison houses, strongholds. They have become a prey, and no one to deliver for plunder, and no one to say, restore. Now, who among you gives ear to this, or pays attention and hears for the time to come? Who gave Yaakov for plunder, and Yisrael to robbers, to the robbers? Was it not Yahuwah, he against whom we sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, and they did not obey his Torah. So he poured out on, that's what we're talking about. See, in Malachi, chapter 4, verses 4 through 6, talks about that. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. And then he goes on to say, if you don't turn back and obey, I will lay the whole earth waste. You know, but you know, it's true. What's getting us in trouble is things that we are cooking up on our own to try to save us. Sacraments. Well, where's sacraments at? You know, they can't help you. But anyway, it doesn't lead here to love one another. Love one another. You know, how would we learn to do that? Well, I wanted to show you something else about this. I was doing a little research on the word Kabbala, which is a Hebrew word that essentially means to receive.
Yeah.
Anyway, it gives you the source of a lot of other words. The Greek word is kuklos.
Kuklos. Wow.
Kuklos. You know, like if somebody buys a kuka, that's a kind of a pastry thing that's round and it's got, you know, all kinds of stuff on it. Well, it's talking about its circular shape, the kuka. Well, Cabal is another, it's a gathering, a circle together. And the, you know, the thing of it is the people that were the Jesuits in 1605 that attacked King James, the one that, you know, is responsible for the King James Version in 1605, 403 years ago. Well, it was more like 410 years ago. Anyway, the King James Version is about 403 years ago. And knowledge is going to increase, so we have better understanding and new translations. But they had this guy named Guy Fawkes who had a gunpowder plot to blow up the Parliament and the King and all the government underneath the Parliament building with a whole bunch of barrels of gunpowder. And it would have made a crater, you know, but it was discovered. But this was a cabal too, the Jesuit cabal, you know. It was a secret organization, you know. So just wanted to say that there's this word gives rise to other words and terms, you know. But anyway, I've got this article online, and I'm going to read from this because this is a very interesting study on a different take on Kabbalah. It's the mysticism of Rabbinic Judaism. See, Rabbinic Judaism is not the Hebrew roots. A lot of people think it is. But really, it's just the fallout from not having the Messiah within the Pharisees' teachings, because the Pharisees became the rabbis. That's who they were. See, there is no such term rabbi in the Tanakh. And this subject concerns teachings, not people. So we're not being anti-Semitic. It would be like accusing somebody, if you say that this is anti-Semitic, it would be like accusing Arabs, you know, saying that you're against all Arabs because of their religion. You're not. You know, Islam is a religion, but Arabs are people, you know. Of course, most of the Islamic people are in the Philippines, I understand. But I'm certainly not against any Filipinos. I think they're beautiful people. Anyway, the thing of it is, when we learn new things concerning our behavior, that it's easy to shift what we're saying about that behavior to the people themselves. And we're not talking about people. We're just talking about teachings. Is the Kabbalah of Yahuwah, or is it something else? Did it come from Hinduism? Well, there's a lot of hints that it does. The advocates say that Kabbalah is a secret method to connect to forces to attain fulfillment. We're not looking for love, we're looking for fulfillment, personal. And see, that sounds like selfishness. But anyway, its secrets are intended to be understood only by a small number of people with a specialized knowledge. And they have to be trained by a rabbi, which is in reinforcing that relationship. A rabbi is the equivalent to a guru. In the scriptures, there is no such thing as a personal rabbi, except for Yahusha. He's the only one. Kabbalah is a mystical interpretation of the inner meanings of the Torah and the oral traditions of the fathers. Now, that last phrase, the oral traditions of the fathers, which includes the written traditions of the fathers, which we would call the 1,200-year-long seminar called the Talmud. 1,200-year thing. Started in the first century. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's questions and answers and questions and answers. But anyway, without the Messiah, they don't have him. They're still waiting for him, you know. But anyway, Kabbalah itself emerged from the publication of the Zohar, and that was 700 years after Islam appeared. It was in the 13th century. The Zohar is the chief Kabbalah text, which directs Torah study along 4 levels of interpretation, known by an acronym, Pardes, where the P, the R, the D, and the S mean other words. That's what an acronym is. So the P stands for Parshat, and that's the simple surface meaning. And then you've got Remez, which is hinted, the Drash, which is a search, and the Sud, which is the hidden meaning. Well, where is it written that Yahuwah has kept secrets in the text on 4 different levels? Well, we find that in Hinduism, not the truth. Zohar itself is a word that means splendor. And it first appeared in Spain in the 13th century, published by Moses de Leon. And interest in it exploded during the 16th century through a rabbi named Isaac Luria. And he promoted the Zohar in the 16th century and echoed Leon's claim that the thoughts were based on the writings of a 1st century rabbi, Shimon bar Yochai, under the inspiration of the prophet Elijah. Okay. Well, we're speaking with dead people? Okay. All right. Well, that's the basis of the Zohar. Elijah. And wasn't it Paul that warned us? He said, even if a messenger from heaven came and had a different message, let him be accursed, you know. Well, we're not cursing Eliyahu or Elijah, as they call him. But anyway, this Kabbalah, the Zohar, focused on mystical concepts. And it reached its height in the later Middle Ages among the Hasidim. And it involves esoteric, which means secret, ciphers or codes, which is an approach to Scripture directly condemned by Yahusha in Luke chapter 8. Now, if you read Luke chapter 8, it's going to pop right out at you that this is not the way that that we're not to conduct ourselves this way. Kabbalah has evolved into new forms among Christians, New Agers, and occultists. You know, so we've got Madonna and, like you say, many others that are promoting this Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. And anyway, the Kabbalist teacher's yoke, or teachings, allows his student access to a higher level interpretation through so-called secret codes. Today we hear about codes being discovered all the time. There was for the last several weeks, I've been hearing on the radio about a money code that's in the Scriptures. Mm. Like, yeah. That's appealing to people who are wanting money. Mm. They're not looking for love between, Yahuwah and themselves. They're looking for money. So this pastor is putting these ads on saying he's discovered a secret money code in the Scriptures. Oh. How to get rich. Oh. What are we supposed to serve? Who are we supposed to be serving? Oh. Money or Yahusha? Mm. And Paul said he's found contentment in all, being with or without. But anyway, Yahusha contrasted his yoke with their yoke. At Matthew 11, verse 29, it says, "Take my yoke," that means teaching, "upon you, and learn from me, for I am meek and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your beings. For my yoke is gentle, and my burden is light." See, we want him to inhabit us. We don't want to yoke with spirits or forces. We want to yoke with him. Anyway, the Kabbalah student looks upon his teacher as his exalted one, which is the word rabbi. See, rab means exalted, to lift up. And rabbi means my lifted up one. The term rabbi is not found in the Tanakh. Anyway, Gnosticism, the search for knowledge, is considered vital to enable one to reach awareness or perfection. You have to have it. Well, that comes from somewhere else, because it was flooding into the Middle East from Hinduism in the East in the 1st and 2nd centuries, and it continued to infect the early assemblies. The Eastern philosophy of Hinduism teaches a method or path called dharma that leads a person out of the karmic cycle of reincarnation into nirvana, which is nothingness. That's the goal.
Yep.
This is not the goal, but oblivion is. We draw parallels from Hinduism everywhere in Kabbalah. The terms Zohar, which splendor and nirvana and enlightenment, connecting or yoking to forces and energies, and the 4 levels of interpretation, dharma, rabbi, guru, and much more indicate there's a direct connection between Kabbalah and the karmic traditions of Hinduism by means of a methodical process of learning, or Gnosticism, which is the Greek word for knowledge. Now, Mark 10, verse 15 says this: "Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive," that's the word Kabbalah, "the reign of Yahuwah as a little child shall certainly not enter into it." Now, that was Yahusha himself saying that whatever high level you all might be thinking you're on, if you don't receive this as a little child, you're not entering, even though they're searching diligently, pressing in. Because, anyway, in Mark 7, verse 8, it says, "Forsaking the command of Elohim," which we started reading at the very beginning here, "you hold fast the tradition of men." And he said to them, "Well do you set aside the command of Elohim in order to guard your tradition." See, he's talking to these rabbis. Now, what is it that the rabbis were promoting? They were promoting something called the traditions of the fathers. Now, that phrase is a definition of what we call Judaism. Judaism is not necessarily Torah. It is a mix of Torah and traditions of the fathers. And in that day, he was talking to these men who were practicing rabbinic Judaism. That is the traditions of the fathers. And he was fiercely opposed by these men who were calling themselves rabbis. Now, he said to them, and I think I forgot to put the text on this, "Woe to you, learned in the Torah, because you took away the key of knowledge. You did not enter in yourselves, and those who were entering in you hindered." And that's because the key of knowledge is the name. And they forbade the pronunciation of the name. And so the name was becoming hidden. And they were wanting to keep it hidden, partly, I guess, because they wanted to make sure they had some secrets to keep. But the rabbis taught the oral law of the fathers, also referred to as the traditions of the fathers. In that day, we received that word from the Greek and Latinization of it called Iodaismos, which is the religion of the Yahudim. Now, we're not being anti-Semitic, we're just talking about teachings. This is the term that Paul himself used, and I'm going to quote him in just a bit here. "This sect is known today by its advocates as Rabbinic Judaism. They were Pharisees, who were also, by the definition, separated ones. Prashim means separated ones, and they specified the teachings. Some believe that Rabbinic Judaism is the actual Hebrew roots of the faith. That's not true. Tradition is not our foundation, nor is it our roots." Remember that Fiddler on the Roof song? It's not our roots.
Tradition.
So the traditions are not our roots, they're not our foundation. Now here's what Paul said in Galatians 1, verse 13 and 14. "For you have heard of my former way of life in Yehudaism." He's talking about, the traditions of the fathers. "How intensely I persecuted the body of Elohim and ravaged it. And I progressed in Yehudaism beyond many of my age and my race, being exceedingly ardent for the traditions of my fathers." He's giving you the definition of Yehudaism, understood in that day, as the traditions of the fathers. See that?
Yeah.
Okay, this yoke of the traditions of the fathers, is not the Torah of Moshe. It was the traditions of the fathers. Now we can understand what this means. Acts 15, verse 10. And then why do you try Alehim by putting a yoke on the neck of the taught ones, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? See, the yoke that they're talking about in this text is not the Torah. It's the traditions of the fathers. See, that's why we have to understand this. The Christian mindset thinks that this is talking about keeping commandments. And this is one of the verses they go to immediately, saying, no one can keep the commandments. They're too difficult. We read the commandments. They're not too difficult. Yahuwah said they were not too difficult. Anyway, the yoke of the traditions of the fathers was keeping men from calling on the name of Yahuwah. And by their traditions, men were being confused by the wisdom of men, falsely called knowledge or Gnosticism. The mystical and allegorical interpretations were influencing the true faith. Now, then there's this thing that we call, the rabbi-student relationship is compared to the Hindu guru. You know, the guru and the rabbi are basically the same thing. They're instructors. Now, the advocate of Hinduism is trained by their guru or yogi instructor to perform exercises in order to yoke with something called life forces, or ki, K-I, which are in truth spiritual demonic entities. So this ties in with some of the studies that we were doing before about demonic possession, black magic, white magic, whatever, witchcraft. It's rebellion, but yoking with forces. Anyway, between the guru or the rabbi and his student, a bond of trust is formed between the teacher and his disciple. A guru is exactly like a rabbi, guiding the learner. The teacher is referred to as a spiritual master, one who has reached self-realization or fulfillment. The guru and the rabbi are exactly the same. Now, the actual practice of Hinduism is called yoga. Yoga is a form of Hindu prayer, and it's an exercise of meditation and astral projection performed by the advocate, who is called a yogi. Have you ever heard of Yogi Bear?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, boo-boo. You're a boo-boo. The term yoga itself means to yoke and is a union with energies or forces. Wow. Is that opening you up to demonic possession or what? This is the same goal that's proposed by Cabala. That's what they do, to connect to forces to maintain fulfillment. If you stop doing it, you won't maintain it. That's what they teach. Now, the yoga union with the forces proposes to elevate their consciousness to successively higher chakra levels, which are imaginary. They're supposedly in your spine. And they depict illustrations of a serpent going up a person's spine. A serpent force in their spine guides this process. Does this sound like we're going anywhere good? The goal perfectly aligns with Kabbalah to achieve fulfillment. Tantric and Kundalini yoga are the most popular, but all yoga is repackaged in a variety of ways for consumption in the Western world. Today we see Jewish yoga, Torah yoga, holy yoga, Christian yoga, hot yoga. I was driving down the road a month ago and I saw this place on the side that said hot yoga. And, they're in there doing it, whatever it is. But it's yoking with demons. Anyway, awareness is what Hinduism is seeking. Self-awareness, self-realization, awareness of truth, Anyway, the interpretation of the Eastern texts is guided by tantric gurus who control their students with vows of various kinds, and they reinforce their control with physical and psychological exercises. Their sacred texts include, there's others, but these are the main ones, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Shruti. In these sources, we discover AJA. It's not a Steely Dan album. This is some kind of thing called AJA. I don't know what it is, but it's something bad. The absolute or unborn eternal consciousness. This is coming from their mysticism, okay? Am I making fun of them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why people hate me, because I'm making fun of these things. What? Of course. What do you want me to do? Be serious about it and respectful? The absolute or unborn eternal consciousness. What? AJA. Okay. The self-realized guru teaches that there are 4 levels of awareness. Where is that? What's that remind us of? Well, Kabbalah, not the Torah, not Yahuwah, not Yahusha. They teach, the Kabbalah teaches there's 4 levels too. When we consider all of these elements together, they point to an early interchange between Eastern Gnosticism and its influences on Rabbinic Judaism, which is the sect known as the Pharisees, in the early 1st century and forward. Neither Yahusha nor any of the prophets gave any hint, oh, that's one of the levels, isn't it? That there are 4 levels of interpreting his inspired word. You know, there's a literal and there's an abstract that he points to. Do you see it? Well, that's it, you know. He called them very thick and slow of learning because they couldn't understand what he was saying. They thought he was talking about bread when he was talking about yeast. You know. And he even, it's recorded there, you know. Anyway, Ephesians 4 tells us the Gentiles have darkened minds filled with ignorance, and they're tossed about by every wind of teaching. Hinduism has many, many mystical rabbit trails. Lots of winds blowing around in there going, wow, which one of these winds of doctrine are you going to get hooked on? Anyway, many are absorbed into Catholicism as well, these winds of doctrines. For example, beads and rosaries, where do they come from? Hinduism. Islamists don't know this either. They have ashes. They put ash lines on their foreheads. That's in Catholicism too. It's not coming from Yahuwah's way of living. They have statues, steeples, and stupas. They have holy water, like the Ganges is considered holy water. And the Gohanzen, which is a little box that they put idols in, that's what is the gold tabernacle in the Christian circus storefronts. Circus storefronts, storehouse circuses. Anyway, oh boy, there goes that sarcasm again. Anyway, Yahusha instructed us to build upon the rock, a firm foundation, and we see the highest knowledge that we can attain. What is it? His name and his word. His name and his word. Let's read Psalm 138, verse 2. I bow myself towards your set-apart heckle and give thanks to your name for your kindness and for your truth. For you have made great your word, your name above all. Okay, there's no yoking with demons. There's no gold tabernacles, you know. The Zohar and the Talmud did not exist at the time Yahusha warned his Natsarim of the yeast of the Pharisees. Now, after we've listened this far into this, what is the yeast of the Pharisees? Anybody in the audience? Rabbinic Judaism. Anyway, I'm not being anti-Semitic. I'm talking about teachings, okay? Not the people. The people are just being guided by these things, you know. Now,
yeast is extra teachings, isn't it? Puffed up, extra, added.
Yeah, added. So there we have it. So the traditions of the fathers, i.e. Rabbinic Judaism. The oral teachings passed from rabbi, guru to student is considered to be secret interpretations. I attended one meeting in a synagogue congregation, and there were, maybe 10 of us. And there was the rabbi at the head of the table. And he was whipping out that Talmud. And I was going, well, it's the Talmud. I didn't even know what it was. Well, they were, it would just sound like a bunch of nonsense, to me. A bunch of men speaking, a lot of dead words. Now, you read the scriptures and that they're alive, Even the translations are alive. They come up and jump into you, and his word just takes hold of you. But these were dead words, that I was... Anyway, the name is the stone that the builders rejected. If you read Psalm 118, the whole thing, you'll see the name is embedded in there. And then it says the name was... It says the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. That's at Psalm 118:22. It doesn't require 4 levels of interpretation to arrive at this truth. Anyway, in their pursuit of awareness and enlightenment, their minds have been veiled from understanding until they receive Yahushua's Spirit to enlighten their hearts. It says in 2 Corinthians 3, verse 14 through 16, but their minds were hardened, for to this day, when the old covenant is being read, that same veil remains, not lifted because in Mashiach it is taken away. But to this day, when Moshe is being read, a veil lies on their heart. And when one turns to the Master, the veil is taken away. Anyway, I was going to say, review this again. There was a Gnostic invasion of the Middle East, in the eastern whole of the Mediterranean region was invaded by this Gnosticism. And historians have even commented on it here and there, and people have written books about this huge wave of Gnosticism. Well, it was coming from the source of Hinduism, because they were very interested in the spiritual realm, more so than the physical, when in fact there is a balance, and that's what the yin-yang is a symbol of, light and darkness, the physical and the spiritual realm, But throughout this 1st and 2nd century, ideas from the East were spreading across the entire Western Mediterranean region. And the Hindu concept of yin-yang, light, darkness, and material versus immaterial became the basis of Gnostic teaching. Everything physical was considered imperfect and corrupt, while everything unseen or spiritual was perfect. Rabbinic Judaism ingested these ideas into their format as well, and it began to spread among the early Natsarim. Now, this is important to understand why certain comments were made by the writers, like Yehukanan and Paul. Now, this explains what the words mean when Yehukanan, or John, said what he said here. I'm going to read it. It talks about Yahusha, the idea that Yahusha had not come in the flesh was being passed around, and Yehukanan had to address that. They thought that because he's perfect, he must have been a spirit. He wasn't really born in flesh. Anyway, how could Yahusha be perfect if he took the form of a physical body? If all matter is intrinsically corrupt and defiled. Now, you can easily see how a person influenced by doctrines of reincarnation from Hinduism would be conflicted, because perfection would suggest that nirvana was achieved. How could you be physical? Because, oblivion. You had to be in some other place. You had to have the skin of the blue people.
Yeah.
Now why do the Hindu deities are they shown in pictures as having blue skin? Because the Beatles had the blue meanies. Of course. No, actually that was something that was the source of the Beatles having the blue meanies. But John was a very arrogant man, and he was making fun of the Hinduism too, But the blue was something that was, I'm going to explain what that is. It has to do with the sky color, because they were no longer physical. They had become spiritual, and therefore blue was the color of their skin. I think Donovan had a song about that. He's another one, from Hinduism, He probably knows all about the Kabbala. You remember Donovan, don't you? Donovan?
Yeah, he was at All It Takes, was it?
He was a musician, and still is. He was.
We covered one of his songs. The one we mixed with.
Oh, The Season of the Witch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
Did you say that John was arrogant?
John? Oh, John Lennon?
Oh, John Lennon. Oh, I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about Huguenot.
Yeah, he was talking about blue meanies.
I see.
You know, but of course, those blue meanies he was speaking to were the blue uniforms of the police.
Yeah.
You know, you can go down the street and meet a cop because there's so many of them. You know, he was very. He had a problem with authority.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying about his arrogance. He was very arrogant and spoke to those things in his songs. But
I thought you were talking about your Huguenot.
No, I'm not talking about John. That John. Anyway, any manifestation of a perfected being would be incorporeal. In other words, out of body, without material substance. Anyway, Yehukanan, or John, was dealing with this divisive and demonic error head on. This is what Yehukanan wrote in 1 Yehukanan, or 1 John 4, verses 2 and 3. By this you know the Ruach of Elohim. That's the spirit of Elohim. Every Ruach that confesses that Yahushua Mashiach has come in the flesh is of Elohim. And every Ruach that does not confess that Yahushua has come in the flesh is not of Elohim. And this is the Ruach of the anti-Mashiach, which you heard is coming, and now is already in the world. So you see this Gnosticism, which is filling the media, this Hinduism, you see it all over the place, is filling the world, and that's anti-Mashiach. And Paul also dealt with these mystics. He said, he was addressing their asceticism. Asceticism is inflicting the body and, you know, giving things up, and don't do this and don't do that. Now, he says in Colossians 2, verse 20 through 23, if then you died with Mashiach from the elementary things of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to regulations, do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which are all to perish with use, according to the commands and teachings of men? According to the commands and teachings of men is a phrase that Christians kind of mull over there. He's not talking about eating kosher food. He's talking about these ideas that are coming from the Gnostics. These indeed have an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed worship. Humiliation and harsh treatment of the body are of no value at all, only for the satisfaction of the flesh. Talking about the fleshly mind. Now, these things are disturbing the Natsarim today. And a lot of people have been, for years and years, turning away from Christianity and jumping headstrong into rabbinic Judaism. We know this. And then they eventually lose interest in Yahushua because they're trying to attain their salvation. The only reason that that paper that has the list, the chirographin, the only reason that that paper that the accuser holds against you is because Yahushua's blood has taken it away. There's not anything you can do. Anyway, Yahushua, well, in the book of Hosea, or the book of Yahushua, in chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "My people are perishing for the lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge. I reject you from being priests for me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of Elohim, I also forget your children." See, we're talking about knowledge of his Torah has been forgotten, you know, not knowledge of the yoking with spirits. So we have to prepare for the day of Yahuwah, not with the Zohar or the Talmud. We have to prepare for the day of Yahuwah, guided by the words of Malachi 4, verses 4 through 6. "Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb for all Yisrael, laws and right rulings. See, I am sending you Eliyahu, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with utter destruction." Now, there's no mention of any inspired Zohar or Talmud or 4 levels. We have to return to the source of our problem, the thing we didn't obey. Now, Daniel who lived through about 4 different rulers.
Sorry, is that verse talking about natural fathers and sons, or is that talking about us coming back to you, Yahusha?
Oh, you mean in Malachi 4?
Yeah, the hearts of the fathers turning to the children, and vice
The
versa.
hearts of the fathers turning to the children. Well, the children are, the fathers represent the fathers of the faith, Abraham, Ishak, Jacob, to return to their way of living. And the children represent their descendants, the children of Israel. And the hearts of the children to their fathers, the children of Israel, who are scattered around on the earth, turning their hearts back to their hearts, you know. And what are they doing? They're obeying Yahuwah. That's all about, it isn't about the 4 levels or yoking with demons. It's about getting back to the Torah of Moshe. Anyway, there's, and Daniel, I was talking about Daniel. Yeah. Daniel had no need for a Zohar because it didn't exist. It wasn't going to be around for another 1900 years. And Yehezkel, or Yechezkel, who they call Ezekiel, in chapter 8, he describes the mixture of Babel's zodiac, which are animal figures that were written inside the temple of Yahuwah's temple. They were drawing the depictions of the zodiac on the walls of the temple inside. And even now we find ruins of what they call synagogues. On the tiles of the floors of these places, they see the zodiac. Why do you think they're ruins? You know. Anyway, hot yoga or Kabbala has no place in his temple now, and we are his temple. So, anyway, Stephen in Acts 7, verse 42 talks about the worship of the host of heaven. Yes. You know, if you don't know what the host of heaven is, you should watch our seminar about the zodiac and the Mazzaroth. The worship of the host of heaven was a big problem in that time because they were getting this from the East as well. You know. Anyway, it's all futility. I want to mention this, that the King James Version, 403 years ago, translates certain Hebrew words from the perspective of the level of knowledge of the heavens. And over 400 years ago, it was limited to the Babylonian zodiac. That's all they knew. So galaxies were not even discovered until the 1930s. And yet Yahuwah had Hebrew words written in his word before their discovery. Anyway, if we can get past all this wormwood, and yeast and old wine, our older brothers in the faith have preserved the living words. That's reported to us in Acts 7, verse 42, that they preserved and brought down through the mists of time and preserved the living words of Elohim, Yahuwah's words of commandments, you know. But they mixed them up with human ideas and Gnosticism from the East. So I would say that what we have to do is ask ourselves, has Yahuwah spoken secrets in his word or has he not? Well, he says this in Yeshayahu or Isaiah 48. Come near to me and hear this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. For the time that it was, I was there. And now the Master of Yahuwah has sent me and his Spirit. Thus said Yahuwah, your Redeemer, the set apart one of Israel. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, teaching you what is best, leading you by the way you should go. If only you had listened to my commands, then your peace would have been like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. See, he's bringing them back again to the commandments. Now, if you don't believe that what I've exposed here, the Rabbinic Judaism and the Gnosticism and the linkage with Hinduism is correct, read Matityahu chapter 23. Just read it. And this perspective, if you think it's not correct, and you really think that Yahuwah or Yahusha likes the Zohar, the Talmud, and the Zodiac, and he loves it when people are taught about secret codes hidden in his word,
then you're wrong.
Then I'm wrong. He likes the Zohar. He mentions it a lot. No, he doesn't. It wasn't written until the 13th century. But then they claim that it was really taken from the thoughts from the first century. Well, yeah, the thoughts of the first century are what the problem is. Anyway, look it up, and you'll see a little bit about the background of chakras and energy vortexes, and the circular rituals, people in circles. That's the word chakra actually means circle as well, which is related to the word Kabbala. It's almost a direct translation. So anyway, it's all wickedness, and you can, like I say, get this article for free. Just download it and print it out on both sides of a piece of paper. Make all you need, give them away.
It's a big thing, isn't it? This is the new wind. I didn't realise that actual Natsarim like you and I would take this seriously.
Oh yeah, it's enticing. It's like drawing people with the mystery of it all. They're very interested in these facilities that give them insights, secret insights, and they're being guided by rabbis.
When we talked about lunar Sabbath and all that sort of thing, I mean, if somebody was that way inclined, you could try and read into it that it's not what it is. But to actually go to the zodiac and to all the yoga and everything you've just gone through, that's just like blatantly not. I mean, lunar Sabbath, you can read it into the Torah and it's there, it's Sabbath and all that. But this is just not even anything to do with Torah or scripture or...
That's a very interesting thing, Mark, because it's not even there at all. You can't even read it in there, even imagine it to be in there. Except they do jump into the book of Ayub or Job, and they do incline to get something out of the thing. But that's because the King James Version, 403 years ago, that's all they knew about the heavens. That's all they had. So they adapted the Hebrew words to mean whatever they could make them mean. But Yahuwah knows that he created galaxies even then. And he wrote the book of Eob. It's probably one of the earliest writings in the history of scriptures. The first book.
It's like evil spirits are coming to people and letting them know that their belief is not good enough. They have to come under a covering of not so much an elder, but someone more spiritual than them. So they're going to all these other, rabbis and pastors, and if that's not true. Like our experience, we've looked to elders coming out of Christianity. You're always looking to this pastor and that pastor and sucking up to them, and trying to get position and be a good little boy and do the right thing and be fake. And you come into this experience. And you go through Hebrews 12 and the flogging, and you realise you're having a real relationship yourself. It's great to be guided here and there, but you don't need to be. It's an agonising thing to be so into another person. So Yahusha's pulling us all away from that mindset we've all been into.
This is a very important thing too. Let me read this. This is pertaining to what this is all about, and it has to do with strongholds. We've gone through this many, many times. It says, "For though we walk in the flesh," this is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 through 6 or so. It says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not fight according to the flesh. For the weapons we fight with are not fleshly, but they're mighty in Elohim for overthrowing strongholds, false reasonings, overthrowing reasonings, and every high matter that exalts itself against the knowledge of Elohim, taking captive every thought to make it obedient to the Mashiach." So it's talking about the strongholds are what we've been focusing on, and it frees a person, and they don't have to be under a yoga instructor or a guru or rabbi. You can have direct access to the mind of Mashiach, Yahusha himself, and he will guide you into the things he just said. We read from Yashayahu. He's completely consistent in everything he thinks and has had written down and recorded for us. And it's all the objective is to learn to know him, and the fruits of the Spirit are in the person that knows him. Because without him, you're a dried up branch.
Yeah.
You're just dead.
We've all felt it.
What was that?
We've all felt it.
Oh, yeah. When we're not connected to the root, we can feel the lack of living water, you know. But anyway, he wants us to be aware of these things. And, you know, at that time, he was saying the same thing that we're saying here. And he said it in Matthew chapter 23. He said it very clearly. And all we have to do is just realize it. So you have any other comments or observations, or maybe an argument against what I just said? Or is Rabbinic Judaism really where we're supposed to be going? Is that the use of the Pharisees? Or am I wrong?
Oh, it's insane. I just can't believe people take that seriously. Oh. You're hard up for something to do, looking for other things.
Yeah.
Like life is not chaotic and busy enough.
Certainly seems to be, you know.
Yeah.
But all of this information that we've been expelling through the last several years is not an attack on any one person or any group of people or a race or anything like that. It's just exposing the facts that Yahusha himself inspired to be written down and making sense of them in the real world as where we live today. Are we going to keep hanging on to all these things that a lot of people are used to be Catholics, or a lot of people came out of Rabbinic Judaism to find the Messiah? But then again, the danger is to be in both places at the same time, because you can't be a Christian and keep Sunday and ignore the festivals, and yet be a Natsari or be of the Natsarim as well. You have to stop one and start the other, you know. But you can't look around and look back, you know, and keep looking back. You have to look forward. And these truths are not criticisms of people. They're just testing everything that we hear. The truth is always something that makes you stop and think and, wait a minute, if this is true, then what I'm thinking is wrong, you know. It's very consistent. The truth is always saying the same thing. And that's what we do. We're guarding in his name and his word. That's our principal thing. And it's always been that way since we got together. It's those two things. And outside things come hammering at us, and we go, no, I don't think that's relevant. In fact, that's a bad thing, you know. That's and the sources of where it comes from. We track it down, you know. Is it the serpent is all involved in all these background things that people have. But the real thing that we have to look at, the real test, is the love. If you see the fruits of the Spirit being Yahusha, not some yoke thing that you're yoked with, the fruits of him, Yahusha, if those fruits are present, then you've got to pay attention to that. Not that anybody's following people, but you can see it in the people that have love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And goodness. Don't leave that out. You have to have all those fruits, you know. Sometimes one will be there more than another. But gentleness, let your gentleness be known to all men. The Master is, that's Philippians 4.
That's probably why they called them Cristianos, because they were gentle and simple and not probably mean-hearted and so, you know, having a go at them and fighting and bickering. They probably thought they were a bit simple.
Yeah, we see a lot of people that are very critical and severe. They become... I was dealing with some people on Facebook yesterday, and I'm not going to ever name anybody's names, but I think they're just in a bad mood or something. But they have a spirit of anger and hostility and fierceness. And they're mostly people that are like always ranting about one doctrine. You know, it might be one doctrine or another, and that's all they focus on. You've got to get this right. It's maybe the moon, or it might be the day, the time that day starts.
The moon. Talking about the moon again.
Yeah, and they're really down on things. You know, you don't have to be anti-Judaism.
Yeah.
What you can be is just pro-truth, you know.
Yeah.
We're just,
Glass
you know,
is half full.
Yeah, yeah. So show the love and guide them with the truth and just release it. And don't worry about it. Just say, well, you believe this, and this is what I believe, and there's the truth. And one of them is going to wither away. The truth is going to stay, whoever's it may be. You know, if you're, well, it's possible that two people could have both be wrong too. But, you know,
Yeah.
but the Scripture is never wrong. You read Scripture, it's the power.
Yeah. And how are your scriptures going, brother? How is your Basora going?
Well, they're steady. We only have been moving one or two a day, but you know those are going out into the world. Is it gone again? Well, let's get that word Cabala out there. The camera likes that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're back.
Man, it's amazing.
One or two a day. That's pretty good.
One or two a day. Yeah.
For this movement, that's brilliant.
At this stage, yes. I'm trying to find a source where I can get them printed cheaper because, you know, when you have small numbers made, even one place was going to charge me an enormous amount of money for even printing thousands, and I thought, well, that can't be, you know. So I'm gonna. I hate to say it, but I'm gonna have to turn to some other country, you know.
I see.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And what are you still restoring big parts of the scripture, or is it just little words here and there? Or what have you discovered lately?
Just tweaking words, just little, you know, and the one or two little typos. I ran into one word in all of the scripture there where I'd spelled the word D-U-E, like do, with a W, D-W-E, you know.
I noticed that on the word the other day. I forget what word it was. I think you put a CH instead of a K or vice versa.
Yeah.
So maybe you just did the whole scriptures, and can you do that? Replace a letter like that all the way through?
That's dangerous, yeah. But then the program was mixing things up too a little bit, like for one of the things in Revelation, it was talking about the false prophet and moved the word to another sentence. False prophet, the word false prophet was moved to another sentence, the sentence after it. And that's amazing. You never, but I've corrected those things. So.
Good teaching.
Well, it's all scripture, you know, and I had to deal with some of the teachings that they have too, you know, the Hinduism, but it's sad that I had to even talk about that stuff. But it is important to see the linkage, you know.
Yeah. New wind of doctrine.
Yeah, and it's a pretty dangerous one too, you know, because a lot of the people that fall back into rabbinical Judaism, the traditions of the fathers, the yeast of the Pharisees, they're all the same thing. They leave the Messiah. They go backward. Because I guess he just withdraws from them. You know, he just takes his spirit away and goes, I don't know how this could have happened. Well, he knows, because they weren't committed to his Torah, you know, and the foundation, you know. The wind blows and their house is destroyed. The wind blows against our house if we're not on the foundation, and we're gone. But if we're on the foundation, you know, the foundation of his truth, then Kabbala or yeast of the Pharisees or anything, these can come along and we just go, well, it looks like a storm, but it's not affecting me. I'm standing firm. And the lunar Sabbath comes along and blows, and And then somebody comes along and says, hey man, we got the wrong time of day. It's sunrise. That's when we have to start our Sabbath. Really? Well, what? What's this evening to evening thing? Oh, that's just an exception. Oh, okay. Inconsistency. Yahuwah is not like that. He's not inconsistent. Anyway, just teachings. I'm just talking about teachings. You have to be anchored on the foundation. And if your teachings, if you're on the foundation of his teachings, then your house will remain no matter what the winds are doing. The winds of teaching. You know.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah.
We love him.
I took your advice. I've uploaded 40 songs. I didn't even realise there were that many. 40 songs to iTunes. It's still not published yet, but that'll be a good avenue to spread the music out all over iTunes. So
yeah, that's where the focus is right now. And your big family, you need some support from everybody. To the new Christians that are coming out, that are finding out about the true Hebrew roots, that want to hear the name sung in songs. Yeah. You could be one of the foremost sources for that.
Yeah.
So I see a big future for that, and I don't know if it'll lead to it's not, the objective isn't to be wealthy. It's just to have a little support, because there's so little of that. So iTunes, I'm going to get a little bit, so it's just a few nickels. Yeah. But anyway, you're supporting the work when you buy it and download anything like that.
Yeah. It's all good. Trade until I come.
Yeah. Keep doing it. Keep trading until he returns.
Yeah.
And and it's abide in his word. That's the main thing. Not Kabbala and not the Talmud. It's a sad thing to see people that were in Messianic or Rabbinical Judaism that become a believer in Yahushua, and they're still in both fields. It's really confusing.
It's like plaguing on people's brokenness and their ignorance, and like if they've been on like substance abuse or just any kind of coming out of the world, coming out of sin, coming out of anything, and then you're confronted with all this, whether it be Christianity or Rabbinic Judaism, and it's just it's ripping people off compared to what they could receive just straight from Yahushua himself.
Yeah, well, Yahushua told them, he was talking to them directly, and said, you hinder those who are entering in. You yourself will not enter, because of all these teachings of the fathers, the traditions of the fathers. Yeah. And Paul said, this was my former way of life. He said, I am a Pharisee. That's true. He said that. And that's, you can be what you are, one of the separated ones, the Pershim. But he was saying it in a context, so that he would be able to be dividing the people that were accusing him. Because they were Sadducees and they were Pharisees, and the distinction in the two teachings was such that Paul could manipulate that and say, well, these people are accusing me of what we always believe, the things that we also believe, that there's a resurrection from the dead, and this is what I'm being accused of. I'm professing that Yahushua is alive, and when he was in that trial between those two groups, in that group, he manipulated that crowd that way, He said, I am a Pharisee. I've done nothing against the traditions of my fathers or the Torah, he hadn't. But he wasn't promoting the traditions of the fathers. He was just saying, I have done no wrong relative to the traditions of the fathers. But he's certainly not teaching the traditions of the fathers. If anything, you could do a lot of research study on that, and you'd see that he was not. He was in no way teaching that. You know.
Okay. Oh, it's gone again.
Oh man, put that word up there again.
At least we know what we're going to call this episode.
I think everybody's going to see that. Yeah,
it's still gone.
It's still gone.
Yeah.
Is it back?
Ah, love. There we go.
Yeah. Well, did you get the new cards?
No, I haven't got them yet. Oh, did you send me something recently?
Yeah. Maybe 5 days ago.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I haven't received that yet. That's a nice card.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Torah cards.
Torah Institute, Natsarim followers of Yahusha HaMashiach. And there's the menorah, symbol of the Torah, and the name of Yahuwah in Paleo-Hebrew. Yeah, I'm happy with them.
Wow.
I like to hold things up in front of the camera.
Yeah. Show and tell.
It is. It is. I don't have very many flashcards, though.
Yeah.
Just this one right here. But
I'm sure we'll hit some pretty hot topics this season.
Yeah. I don't know how you could. I don't know what he's going to show us. Every time I'm blown away by it, I'm going, "What? I didn't see that coming." But and I hope nobody feels attacked, because this is not a personal thing. This is a historical teaching thing.
Yeah.
It's
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not our found.
How's your workload going, brother? Do you want to go weekly, fortnightly, monthly? How frequent do you want to do the shows?
Well, we could plan on a minimum of monthly, and maybe every 2 weeks if you'd like, if you have the time.
Yeah.
2 weeks would be good. Weekly would be a little tough for me. Come up with enough study, because I do a lot of research, and sometimes if I go off half baked, that might be bad. We had what I call the bipolar vortex.
Oh.
They call it the polar vortex, and I call it the bipolar vortex.
Yeah.
And I told my postman that it's probably the bipolar zodiac vortex.
To which he said,
he said, he just looked confused. Because everybody's talking about the polar vortex.
Yeah.
The North Pole is coming down all the way to like Florida.
Yeah.
Southern United States, Texas, freezing people. They're having frozen crops, or had frozen crops in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's all the family?
Everybody's well. Nobody's gotten sick.
That's good.
We recommend getting a black light, fluorescent tube, not to look at it with your eyes, because they're dangerous. But they put out ultraviolet rays in the wintertime, and I've been telling people they need to get, they're not close, but a few feet away from a black light for 10 or 15 minutes a day.
I saw that. Yeah.
Body,
Dr. Oz was talking about that.
Vitamin D. Yeah. I've been telling people that for years. And it makes your body produce vitamin D, because vitamin D3 is rat poison. You don't want to, it's in people's milk. And, they think, I've been drinking a lot of vitamin D and taking vitamin D supplements. They're taking rat poison. The vitamin D we need, our bodies that fight viruses and colds and flus and things, is produced only by the skin.
Wow.
With ultraviolet light. You can't get it through a window. You have to get it either directly from sunlight, or everybody's hiding from that down here, up here now, because everybody's all covered up and hiding inside the basement, trying to get warm.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Rat poison.
D3. Yeah. Good. Vitamin D3 added to the milk. Oh my. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the main ingredient in rat poison is D3. That's what they say. Oh, it likes it about 10 inches away.
Yeah.
I get too excited. I start jumping back.
That's okay. Excitement's good.
Well, don't forget to download the free article, Kabbalah, 4 pages.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to head off, brother. It's lovely to see you again.
It was wonderful seeing you too.
See what we can put together.
Yeah, another couple of weeks we'll get together and keep emailing me if you get any ideas. Okay?
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Well, we love you, and we'll talk to you then. Okay?
Yeah, love you, brother. Have a good
Okay.
have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tradition.